An African Christmas Tale, The Holiday, Part 2. The village had returned to its calm, but the Okafor family wasn't at peace. They thought they'd left the darkness behind when Kene walked out of their lives, but some shadows don't just fade. They grow. It had been a week since Kene left, but his absence didn't bring Nnenna the relief she'd hoped for. Instead, she felt the weight of his betrayal pressing down on her. Every night, she replayed the moment she learned the truth, wondering how she could have been so blind. The whispers around the village didn't help. People talked, shaking their heads, some even blaming her for bringing city trouble into their peaceful community. But just as Nnenna was starting to come to terms with things, strange events began to unfold. One evening, Nnenna was returning home from the river, where she'd gone to fetch water. As she walked, she felt a strange sensation, like someone was watching her. She stopped, looked around, but the path was empty. The trees swayed in the breeze, and everything was quiet. But she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was there. Then, she saw it. A note, tied to a tree branch, fluttering in the wind. She approached slowly, her heart pounding. She reached up, untied the note, and unfolded it. This isn't over. The handwriting was sharp and angry. Nnenna's blood ran cold. She knew it had to be from Kene. He was sending her a message, telling her he wasn't finished. She ran home, clutching the note, her heart racing. She wanted to show it to her brother, but a part of her feared that Chidi would tell her to leave it alone. She decided to keep it to herself, to handle it her own way. A few nights later, the family was preparing for New Year's celebrations. People were trying to bring joy back to the household, hoping to leave behind the troubles of Christmas. But just as everyone started to relax, the Okafor home was shaken again. Late that night, a loud bang echoed through the village. Chidi jumped out of bed and ran outside, joined by the others. In the darkness, they saw their family's storehouse, a small building that stored grain and supplies, was on fire. Flames licked the sky, turning the night into a nightmare. Chidi and some of the other men rushed to put out the fire, while Nnenna and her mother watched, horrified. By morning, the storehouse was gone, and so were months' worth of supplies. As they stood around the ashes, Uncle Ifani muttered, "This is no accident. Someone did this." Chidi's fists clenched. He knew exactly who was responsible. "Kene," he whispered. Chidi was done with waiting. He told Nnenna they needed to confront Kene. They couldn't let him keep terrorizing their family. "I'll go with you," Nnenna said, determined. She couldn't sit back and hide anymore. This was her fight too. They traveled to the city, to the place where Kene was last known to live. The city was loud and chaotic compared to the village, and Nnenna's heart pounded as they approached Kene's apartment building. Chidi knocked on the door, his jaw set in anger. When Kene answered, he looked surprised to see them but quickly hid it with a smirk. "Nnenna," he said, his voice oozing with false charm. "I didn't expect a visit." Chidi stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Stop what you're doing. Leave our family alone." Kene laughed, shaking his head. "Or what, Chidi? What will you do?" Nnenna spoke up, her voice shaking but determined. "You lied to me, Kene. You used me. And now, you're punishing my family because we found out who you really are." Kene's face turned dark. "You think this is over just because you walked away? You humiliated me in front of the whole village. I won't rest until I get what's owed to me." Chidi didn't back down. "We don't owe you anything. You leave my family alone, or I'll make sure everyone in this city knows the kind of man you are." For a moment, Kene's bravado slipped. He looked between Nnenna and Chidi, his expression shifting from anger to something close to fear. "Fine," he muttered. "You want me to stay away? Then stay out of my life." Chidi nodded, grabbing Nnenna's arm. They turned and walked away, leaving Kene standing alone, a mixture of anger and defeat on his face. Back in the village, things seemed calm for a while. Nnenna felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She believed they were finally free from Kene's reach. But as New Year's Eve approached, another strange thing happened. Nnenna found another note, slipped under her door in the middle of the night. "You think you can escape me? I'm closer than you think." Nnenna's hands shook as she read the message. She felt trapped, unable to escape Kene's shadow. That night, she told Chidi everything. The first note, the fire, and now this. Chidi's face grew dark. "We can't let him keep doing this to you, Nnenna. To us." Determined to put an end to it, Chidi called on their uncle, who had connections to the local authorities. Together, they reported everything Kene had done, providing the notes as evidence. They were advised to stay cautious, as Kene's behavior was erratic and dangerous. But it wasn't enough. The fear in Nnenna's heart grew with each day. She'd seen the side of Kene that no one else knew, the charm that hid the darkness. She feared he would do something desperate. Finally, New Year's Eve arrived. The village gathered to celebrate, hoping to leave the year's troubles behind. But Nnenna couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to her. As midnight approached, Chidi stayed close to her, watching the crowd for any sign of Kene. They thought they were prepared for anything, but they were wrong. As the clock struck midnight and fireworks filled the sky, a figure emerged from the darkness, stepping into the light. It was Kene, his eyes wild, a twisted smile on his face. The crowd gasped, whispers spreading like fire. Nnenna took a step back, her heart pounding. "Kene, you need to leave." Kene held up his hands, pretending to be innocent. "I just wanted to say goodbye, Nnenna. It's the start of a new year, after all." Chidi stepped in front of his sister, his face set with anger. "You don't belong here, Kene. This is our home. Leave." Kene's smile faded. "You think you can just push me out? You think you can take everything from me and walk away?" With that, he lunged forward, his hands reaching for Chidi. The crowd scattered, screams filling the night as the two men struggled, their shadows thrown across the ground by the firelight. But Chidi was stronger. With one swift move, he managed to push Kene back, sending him stumbling to the ground. Kene looked up, his face twisted with anger and fear, realizing he was outnumbered. The village men closed in, determined to protect their own. Kene scrambled to his feet, backing away as he realized he had no allies here. With a final look of hatred, he turned and disappeared into the darkness, his figure swallowed by the shadows. As the dust settled, Nnenna felt a rush of relief. The people gathered around her, offering comfort, reminding her that family would always stand by her. For the Okafor family, this new year was more than just a fresh start. It was a chance to rebuild, to leave the shadows of the past behind. And as the celebrations resumed, Nnenna knew that, no matter what, she was finally free. Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe buttons for more.